have us go live. Avery will get started. Welcome everyone to the Committee on Taxation. We're going to begin having some work sessions today. We'll start with introductions. We will start with Representative Bickford. Is he with us? He was with us. I think he might have logged out. How about Representative Carmichael?
Morning, I'm Mickey Carmichael. I represent communities in Hancock, Washington, and Penobscot counties in House District 137. Thank you.
And Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. I am Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach.
And Representative Kryzak, is he here with us?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Ted Kryzak. I serve as House Lead on the Tax Committee, and I represent District 20, Acton, Lebanon, and part of Shapleigh.
Representative Matlack.
Good morning. I'm Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Creehaven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands.
And Senator Libby.
Morning, everyone. I'm Nate Libby, and I proudly represent all of the people of Lewiston in the Maine Senate.
And Representative Terry.
Good morning. I'm Mo Terry. I represent District 26, the west side of Gorham, and I serve as House Chair.
Excellent. And I'm Senator Ben Shipman. I represent Senate District 27, which is part of the city of Portland. Also with us today is our committee clerk, Avery Page, and our committee analyst, Julie Jones. So we're going to have work sessions on 4 bills this morning. We will start with LD 229. This is sponsored by Senator Farron, an act to increase investment caps in the Maine Seed Capital Tax Credit Program. You see Julie's sharing with us the chart on this.
Yes, this bill and LD 950 both relate to the Seed Capital Tax Credit. However, they're doing different things. LD 229 is, well, first I should say a tiny bit about the Seed Capital Tax Credit, and I am by no means an expert on it. I think I saw in the attendee list Chris Rooney from FAME, which administers the determining who's eligible for the credit. This bill, well, under current law, there are 2 types of investors who can qualify for the Seed Capital Tax Credit. One is private venture capital funds, and the other is any other kind of investor. And in some cases, when we get to 950, we'll see there's a difference between the way those 2 groups are treated, but in most instances, they're treated the same. Under current law, the investment that applies to both private venture capital funds and other investors, there is a cap on aggregate investment in one business of $3.5 million and not more than $2 million in any one year. What LD 229 proposes to do is to increase the amount of annual investment from $2 million to $3 million and to increase the total investment in any one business from $3.5 million to $6 million. There is an overall cap, annual cap on the amount of credits that FAME may authorize in the current fiscal year, or it might be calendar year, I think it is $15 million that is applicable through the year 2026. At that point, it goes down to $5 million, where it used to be before. I think it was last year or the year before, we increased it to 15 for a few number of years, but not not indefinitely going forward. It's only through 2026 that it's at 15. But the $15 million cap is not affected by either of these bills. It would remain in that 15 million through 2026 and then go down to 5 unless the legislature takes some action between now and then to make those changes. So that's kind of the limit of my knowledge and what this bill does. And turn it back to you.
Great, excellent, Julie. You could maybe take this down so we can see each other more. We'll have the conversation around this bill. That would be great. You can see everybody. Excellent committee discussion on LD 229.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, I just want to say good morning. Sorry for joining a few minutes late.
Okay, yeah, no, welcome. And see Representative Hanley's joined us, Representative Bickford have joined us. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, feel free.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, Pittston, Alna, Westcasset, and Randolph. Sorry I was late. I seem to lose these Zoom links like pennies. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Representative Bruce Bickford. I represent House District 63, which is part of Auburn. And again, I'm sorry I'm late, but I had a phone call. I was actually on and I had a phone call that I really had to take. So I'm back.
Excellent. So what do folks think about this bill?
Chair.
Representative Terry, I think, and then Representative Carmichael.
Yeah, I just want to throw out there for the committee to consider is we are, I believe OPEGA is in the midst of reviewing the change that we made last year. So I just wanted to throw that out there to be part of our discussion.
Go ahead, Representative Carmichael and Senator Pouliot.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think with the mill sites that we have to repurpose and trying to bring some vitality, economic vitality back to the communities that were affected by the mill closures and stuff, it kind of makes sense to have the higher limits at this time and then reduce them after some of these big projects have been repurposed and have gotten underway. I think, it's now's the time when they need the higher limits and, maybe readdress this and, in the future when these, like I said, when these mill towns have had an opportunity to take advantage of the economic development that this creates.
Thank you for that, Senator Pouliot.
Sure. Well, I was the sponsor of the bill last year, LD 1200, that made some of the changes to this program. That bill was co-sponsored by Speaker Gideon and at the time and Senate President Jackson. And we had, I think, some good bipartisan support. Really, the intent was that this money was getting used up. The capital credit was getting used up really quickly. So we were trying to slow the the burnout, if you will, of the available resources in such a quick manner. If those of you who were on the committee might recall that, there were stories, and those were kind of talked about, I think, a little bit too in the public hearing on this bill, of people lining up around the building to kind of receive this credit, and then those credits being exhausted within a very short period of time. So the intent of the legislation, which ultimately was passed, was to kind of alleviate that a little bit. And if I'm torn on this because, I had another bill and to increase the credit to $10 million. So I definitely would like to see the caps increased. But I also want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is supported financially so that the resources don't run out on one or two users, that we could maybe spread that out a little bit more to other businesses as well. And, the work that's being done at the Madison paper mill, I mean, that's just an incredible story. And I wish that there were more people like that, making investments in this state. They've had to persevere through some really difficult and challenging times. And, I think that that's the kind of action that we're going to need to grow Maine's economy. And it's why I've always been supportive of this credit and want to do what I can. But I also, and I'm mostly just sharing this out of a desire for us to have some dialogue about the need to also balance carefully, not exhausting all the resources that are available on, just a handful of businesses.
Yes, so go ahead, Senator Libby.
Mr. Chair, I echo some of the sentiment of my colleague, Senator Pouliot, on this credit. I was familiar with the process of how his bill evolved in the last session, and that we got, I think, unanimous support for expanding the annual cap while modestly reducing the allocation by project to help ensure that these important startup funds are available to as many startup businesses as possible, while minimizing the risk, the exposure risk that the state has. I think one of the things that I found challenging in reviewing the testimony on this bill that was given is you almost get the impression that we're the only game in town, that is, the state is the only game in town to help get these projects off the ground. And the reality is that the state seed capital tax credit is a component in how these large scale projects come together. These funds are often used in conjunction with loans from private banks, loans from public entities like FAME and DECD, as well as money from the private capital markets. And so I think all of the projects that we've seen successfully use this credit have also had to go to other sources. And so this idea that if we're not supportive of increasing the project cap now, that we're going to tank all of these future projects, I just don't think is a reflection of reality. And further, we agreed last session to grow the annual cap, but modestly roll back the amount that could be allocated to an individual project. And I'm sort of feeling like we've got to see how that plays out. And if it makes committee members feel more comfortable, we could ask OPEGA to analyze this question as part of their review that is just getting underway this year. We could ask them, did the reduction in project cap impact, the ability for projects to get off the ground? I'd feel more comfortable considering this after that review was done, and I'm, sort of feeling like I'm trying to be consistent with how we dealt with the historic preservation tax credit, where we said we're okay, keeping this program on the books. We didn't want it to sunset. We want to project stability out there in the market, but we do want to look at the OPEGA analysis too before we make any big, bold changes. And I sort of feel the same with this credit.
I think you make some good points, Senator Libby, on that. And with the changes that we made last session on this, we made some pretty significant change. And my understanding is there's actually still money now left in the fund, a third of the way into the year. There's still money there available that hasn't been used. And part of that's because of the pandemic and PPP loans and things like that. But I think I'd also like to see what PEG has to say with the report, and maybe ask the question you just posed, have them look at that as well, and come back and let us know how the program's working now with the changes that have been made. Before we make another significant change, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming down at this point, of what I'm thinking. Representative Carmichael, followed by Representative Senator Pouliot. I think you're muted, Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your point to the balance being left in the available funds was kind of what I was pointing to, with why this would afford us an opportunity to increase the cap and not take away from the really the number of people who are using it. If we had money left in there and money available, then it would be better used on larger projects than not being used at all.
Okay.
Go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm kind of torn on this one because of what was just alluded to by Representative Carmichael. So one aspect of the bill that I didn't like, that I was the lead sponsor of last session, LD 1200, was the going from the 5 million cap to 3.5. But I was looking at it holistically about how can we get more revenue available for these credits going from, 5 million annually to 15 million, because that 5 million obviously was getting exhausted, could have been potentially even exhausted by one company. It didn't happen that way, but theoretically it could have. So now we're in a situation where we've agreed, okay, we want to put more money into this program because it is just like the historic tax credit program, a lot of like a go, no go mechanism, even though there's a lot of other attributes to the capital stack for these businesses. I do see that there are some cases where, and it was mentioned, in the public hearing about the situation up in Madison, where I think sometimes in the state, we're not necessarily thinking globally in terms of how big some of these projects can be and scalability and so forth. And so while some projects could utilize $500,000 or $1 million from the seed capital program, others are scaled much larger and require, more resources in order to be able to work. So I guess all that is to say that I've always been a proponent for allowing there to be a larger cap, as long as we can think thoughtfully. And, I think that going like we did in LD 1200, from 50% to 40% helps to achieve that in some ways. But, because it might encourage people to be invested into other projects as well, to get more, credits. But I guess I'm not a no on increasing the cap overall, though if this committee feels that we should do some more analysis or get some more insight. I guess I always feel frustrated that we're moving too slowly in Maine. So that's just where I'm at.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator Pouliot. Representative Terry.
I echo Senator Pouliot's slow road frustration as well. But again, I also I feel like we're trying to change something that we worked so hard on last year so quickly. And my fear is that we're doing it with that. If we were to do this right this minute, we would be not giving the proper reporting time for how it worked over a very short period of time, unfortunately, last year due to the pandemic. And that if we do this and we do spread our wings a little bit and we find that post-pandemic we're stuck in that same having to show up at Fame's door at midnight the night before the credits issued, once things come back into focus and people are more or less scared of investing, that we're going to find ourselves in another situation. So again, I think I'm like the OPEGA report. I really, really want to see what the OPEGA report has to say about what we've done so far. And again, I echo Senator Pouliot, your thoughts on this taking a long time, but at the same time, I truly believe that the state should be investing as much as possible, as much as we can into small, medium, and large business. I'm a huge fan of the private-public partnership, but I think that we're potentially putting the cart before the horse if we do anything quickly with this. So if it's okay with everybody, I would love to I guess carry this over. I don't know if I need to make a motion for that or if I guess I don't need to make a motion. I guess the motion would be tabling it till we get some more OPEGA, till we get the OPEGA report at the very least. Go ahead. Anybody want to jump in on that?
Second that.
So you're making a motion to table the bill?
Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need some more. I think we need some more information. I think the OPEGA report will help us with that.
You want to add into your motion that we add the question Senator Libby brought up to ask OPEGA to look into that aspect as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion by Representative Terry to table this bill and also to ask OPEGA to look into the question raised by Senator Libby as part of the report. And the motion's been seconded by Senator Pouliot. And that's not debatable, it's tabling motion. So I guess we're now ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify. That appears to be unanimous, Avery. You have all the names?
Got it.
Okay, excellent. So that's unanimous, so that will now conclude the work session on LD 229. So why don't we go right into work session on LD 950. This is Senator Bennett's bill and act to improve Maine's economic development incentives.
Mr. Chair.
No, go ahead, Senator Puglia.
Real quick, now that we're out of voting on that, and there might be some stakeholders still on the work session, you can't see people in a room anymore. I just want to be clear that the reason for tabling is to try to get some more information and not torpedo this. It seems to be that there's sentiment around continuing this program, trying to improve it and so forth, but we need some more insight from OPEGA. One thing I just wanted to mention, there should be some collective discussion going on about the fact that the $15 million does under statute go away in 2025. So we might want to give some consideration to changing that date as well when we bring that back up, and hopefully OPEGA can give some insight on that.
Yeah, it's a good point, Senator Puglia. I mean, I think most, if not all of us, are in agreement. This is a good program and has worked well in the past, but we're just looking for some additional information with the changes that we made last year and seeing how it's working now. Excellent. Well, I guess we'll now move into the next bill. If you want to bring the chart up for us, Julie, and walk us through LD 950.
On its way.
All right.
LD 950. Oh, first, I just want to explain. I don't know how many of you saw me having my sneezing and coughing attack while you were having your discussion, but one of the advantages of muting is that you didn't have to listen to me coughing and sneezing. Spring allergies. Okay, LD 950 also relates to the seed capital credit, different aspect. And in this case, it's an instance where there is a distinction between private venture capital funds and other investors. The same rules apply for how much can be claimed. However, private venture capital funds are entitled to a refundable credit. For other investors, the credit is not refundable. What this bill proposes to do is provide that the non-private venture capital fund investors would essentially receive a sort of grace period at the beginning in January through March, that FAME would only be able to certify those people in that, the investors in that group eligible for a credit. They would not be able to certify for refundable credit, meaning the private venture capital folks, until fund, that's the important word in there, folks, until April. I believe this is meant to address the issue of the rush at the gate in January when FAME can start certifying people to be eligible for the credit. The other thing that this bill would do, which is an entirely separate issue, but it would provide, well, not entirely separate, but it's not related to the seed capital credit. This bill has an appropriation, an ongoing appropriation of $500,000 annually to the governor's Jobs Initiative program to be used as matching funds for worker training or retraining in manufacturing industries. The sponsor at the public hearing suggested a change to, oh no, actually I described what the sponsor was suggesting to you rather than the bill. The bill would have just provided that a refundable credit could not be granted until after certificates had been issued for non-refundable credits. So it would, the bill would give a complete priority for non-refundable credit applicants. The sponsor at the public hearing suggested the January to March for non-refundable, and then beginning in April the refundable people would become eligible. Sorry about that confusion.
No problem, Julie. Thank you for walking us through that bill. Committee discussion on LD 950. Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate, I think, what the sponsor is trying to do here. However, I have a hard time seeing this proposal as anything other than really unraveling the seed capital investment program, which is designed to incent and attract capital from outside of the state's borders to spur investment. I'm not aware of any state that really shuts its doors to outside investment and tries to power their economic growth on their own. So for that very basic reason, I'm not in favor of this bill. And I'm open to hear what other committee members have to say.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Senator Libby. I don't know if you mind taking the chart down, Julie, so we can see everybody. Any other committee discussion? Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I tend to agree with Senator Libby on this. We really don't want to unravel anything and to pick winners and losers on, if we're looking for investment, obviously the greatest investments are generally going to be from outside the state. So
Additional committee discussion. Someone like to make a motion on this bill?
Not to pass.
second,
No, I didn't catch who made that motion. Is that you, Senator Libby?
Sorry, I should have waited to be recognized. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Senator Libby's made a motion not to pass, seconded by Representative Bickford, and Representative Terry, you had your hand up. Did you have anything you wanted to?
I did. I was just gonna, I am in agreement and that we'll be voting for the motion. However, I just wanted to point out that one of our people that testified the other day was saying that, as an angel investor in Maine, it is a small group of humans that are angel investors in this state. I think bringing in outside money is really important. We do it with tourists every single day. I think that we can certainly ask folks to invest in our businesses without any prejudice.
So we do have Andrea Makers raise her hand. She's not here. I don't know if we can bring her in. She may have some additional information she wants to share with the committee. Or
she actually lowered her hand. I think
she did.
She wanted to speak on the previous
Oh,
bill, and I talked to her.
okay. All right. I just
Make sure we heard something.
my screen still showed her hand was up, but I guess it looks like it's down now. Great, Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, so I definitely understand the sentiment expressed here by Senator Bennett. I see he's on today joining us. So I just want to be clear that, I think it's important that we look for ways to benefit Maine taxpayers. I'm also, though, just concerned about limiting our ability to bring capital into the state. And, we struggle enough as it is right now. And I've definitely had people who, I have people that I know that are, or through working with the Seed Capital Credit Program who've reached out to me, over the years about how it is really a small group of people that are participating in things like Maine Angels and other things of that nature and utilizing this credit or have, a tax liability large enough to justify doing it. So I have some concerns about what this would do in terms of bringing liquidity to our state. And while I wouldn't want to see any Maine taxpayer pushed aside from an outside investor coming in and buying up these credits, this perhaps is something for OPEGA to add to its analysis, because I haven't had a lot of Maine taxpayers calling me up saying, hey, we're getting shuffled out by these large out-of-state venture capital firms. We don't have a chance to buy these credits. I guess if I were hearing that, then I'd want to, and maybe I'm missing something or someone else is hearing that and I'm not. But, where we have such a small pool of folks who are utilizing this, that could be an awareness issue. I mean, maybe we need to do some educating to accountants around the state about these programs, but to become an accredited investor is a pretty tall order. And so then beyond that, you know, being aware of this and then taking advantage of it, these are all other things that this, you know, I haven't been hearing, hey, we have a crisis of accredited investors in the state of Maine getting pushed aside by out-of-state venture firms. And if that's happening, please somebody give me a call or school me in it. But until I'm hearing that as a crisis, I think we ought to just kind of leave it the way it is.
Senator Pula, did you say Senator Bennett is with us or not with us?
I noticed his name on the attendee list.
Yeah, I can't see the attendee list. Is there, maybe we could bring him in. He may, I don't know if he has additional information he wants to provide to the committee. We usually do afford that to sponsors of bills. I didn't know he was in the attendee list, but he's now on our screen. Senator Bennett, are you with us?
I am, and I will properly put myself before you here. Thank you. I really, first of all, just thank you very much for the committee discussion on this. I certainly respect what you're trying to deal with here. But the intent of this bill really was, you know, in times of where there's a limited amount of money in this pool, the question is, you know, maybe we should allocate, make sure that people who are actually paying taxes into Maine are able to take advantage of that, and that we reward those people by putting them a little bit ahead of the list. That hasn't been a problem, and I don't want to discourage the out-of-state investment either. The point was just to make sure that the people paying taxes could use it. So I understand where you're heading with this bill, and that's fine. And I just regret, frankly, that the other part of the bill, which I also think is really important, but really isn't a matter that the taxation committee deals with, it would go to a different committee, may suffer this fate because of the motion, but you know, such is the legislature. So I'm grateful for all of you for your thoughtfulness in looking at this bill.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for being with us. Sorry, I couldn't see the attendee list. I didn't realize you were in another room with us. But Representative Terry, you have a question or comment?
Yeah. Not a question. I just, since you're here, Senator Bennett, I just wanted to encourage you to push that governor's job initiative program with the executive branch. You know, we have a supplemental coming up. I would highly recommend you talking to them about getting something like that in there, because I think you're right, that is important. And I'm sad that they're put together. But you know, agree with the motion that's on the table. So sure. I just encourage you to reach out and see what you can do about getting that on the budget, on the supplemental.
Thank you.
And Senator Puglia?
Oh, promoting the supplemental budget already. Wow. Yeah, Senator Bennett, while you're here, I just wanted to say, you know, let's continue working on this. I do want to make sure that every accredited investor in the state of Maine has an opportunity to buy credits, you know, before they go elsewhere. I think probably everybody on this committee does too. So maybe we can find a way to balance that, or have OPEGA, you know, look into that as well too.
Thank you, Senator Puglia.
And Senator Bennett, I don't know if you heard, you probably did, you were in the other room. Senator Puglia had talked about how he hadn't heard of Maine investors being kind of pushed aside. Have you heard anything of that going on at all? I mean, is that an issue now that you know of, or your Maine investors are getting kind of pushed aside or squeezed out of this program for the out-of-state investors?
Now that the fund has ample funds in it, and there are ample credits available, no, that's not an issue clearly, because there's still funds there. But it was the times when we were forced in this program to just sort of prorate, you know, whatever was in the hopper on January 2nd. And, you know, my feeling was that when you have a situation like that, it would be better to make sure that the Maine taxpayer gets their credits, because those are actually coming off from taxes that people are paying in, rather than writing a check to other folks from other jurisdictions that weren't paying taxes to begin with. But yes, no, I agree with your assessment that there is not a problem now with the funding levels. And I'm a strong supporter of this program too. And I've used it myself. Businesses that I've been associated with have used it. It's a great program. And it wasn't any sort of intention to harm the program. It was really more to, within that system of times of constraint that we make sure we recognize the people who are living in Maine and paying taxes in Maine first. But thank
Yeah,
you.
I can
Appreciate
yeah,
your attention to this.
Yeah, and I can definitely appreciate your thoughts on that. And, we did add more money in last session, and there's still, as you point out, money left in the fund. And, part of that may be because of PPP loans and the pandemic, and people aren't starting businesses right now and the recession and stuff. But it'd be, I think it's definitely something to keep in mind and to pay attention to going forward, so that as the economy becomes more robust and there is more competition for this, that we're making sure that Maine investors, don't get squeezed out in the future. So we should definitely keep our eye on that.
Thank you, Senator Chipman. I appreciate that.
Any additional committee discussion on LD 950? We have a motion on the table that was made to ought not to pass, and it's seconded, I believe. So if there's not any further discussion, I guess we'll have a committee vote on the motion of ought not to pass. That appears to be unanimous. Avery, do you have everybody down?
Got it.
Okay. So that appears to be unanimous. So we will now close the work session on LD 950, and we'll swiftly move into work session on LD 978. This is Representative Kepler's bill, an act to create an access to justice income tax credit.
This bill provides an income tax credit for 5 years for attorneys who practice in the state, who agree to practice at least 5 years in an underserved area of the state as determined by the Supreme Judicial Court, who are on a roster that the courts create to accept court appointments in underserved areas, who agree to perform pro bono services in underserved areas, and they would have to be certified annually by the Supreme Judicial Court throughout the 5 years in order to continue to receive the credit. The credit is $6,000 per year. The eligibility for the credit would be open from 2022 through 2027, and then it would go away. So if it has a sunset date in it on its own. It's very similar to credits which have been put in place with regard to dentists and primary care providers. The dental one also has a sunset date on it. The primary care providers started out with a sunset date, but it has been repealed. The court may certify up to 5 eligible attorneys each year, and the court is required to report annually, no, not annually, is required to report in 2027 to the Taxation Committee on how the program is working, and tax is authorized to submit legislation related to that report. Maine Revenue Services has indicated that the administrative costs would be are nominal and could be absorbed. They did not provide a revenue impact amount, but the testimony, I believe, indicated that they considered it to be insignificant. Maine Revenue Services does have some technical concerns. I don't know whether they're all technical or whether some of them are kind of more borderline, but they raised those in their testimony.
All right. Excellent. Committee discussion. Representative Terry. You're on mute, Representative Terry.
Sorry, I think Representative Bickford actually had his hand up first.
Go ahead, Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions for Julie. Is this credit up to $6,000 or is it $6,000? And the other question is it refundable?
Want to check and make sure before I say something that's wrong. It's not to exceed $6,000. And it is not refundable. So if the attorney had a tax bill of $4,000 that year, they would get a credit for that amount, but they would not get more than the $4,000. They can get
Okay,
up to
thank you.
6,000.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And Representative Terry, followed by Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that we could invite in MRS and Representative Hepler, because I think that $6,000 sort of threshold has thrown me quite a bit. I think that getting I think that the salaries available for rural attorneys are not that of doctors and dentists, which is what we are basing this credit on. So I was hoping that we could do some work on this to make it work, to make it happen, but make it work, for something that's more realistic for attorneys. So it looks like everybody's on. Yay. Thank you, Avery. That was quick. So my question, I guess, to start with is for Dr. Allen. If you had mentioned the other day in the public hearing that, this $6,000 threshold would be a deterrent for most people that would be trying to take advantage of this program. And I have talked to a couple of recent law school graduates since then, and they agree as well that it would take a really long time to have a $6,000 liability. So I'm wondering if, Dr. Allen, you could help us maybe adjust this so it would work for folks making, say, a smaller salary than a doctor or dentist would.
I think our view was that rather than running it through the tax system, to just appropriate the money to the court system and have them provide a stipend, I call it what you want, to the individuals that were certified by the court system.
So that would make it very different than the rural medical professionals incentives.
It would, but again, it just seems inefficient to run these things through the tax system, right? The individual has to wait until they file a return to get the benefit. And it's the court system in this case that's doing all the upfront work. It's not Maine Revenue Services. So it just seems like it's more efficient. If the court determines that a certain person qualifies, then they allocate to them the funds that they feel are necessary and meet the other guidelines of the bill, rather than the individual having to wait until they file a tax return and then get. And if you made it,
with the doctors and dentists, though, they do have to go through that process, correct?
I believe so. I think Heather's on and she can confirm that. But again, it even that again seems like an inefficient process, since I believe it's DHHS that's determining upfront their qualifications.
Yeah, that was going to be my question of who's the interested party that does that. Okay, gotcha.
Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, so this seems to make sense to me. I was thinking about this the other day, that we ought to have something similar for teachers too, to try to get them into some more, areas that are underserved. But, the reality is this would be, about 100,000 in income if you figure, roughly a 6% rate after any other kind of deductions or something. So this, I think, is going to probably cover most folks in terms of, utilizing the full credit. And then in the event that they make more than 100 grand a year in these areas, then, then at least a substantial portion of their taxes wouldn't be due. So I don't know, I do see it as an incentive to move people into serving in areas where we have a shortage, and, our legal system is designed to work with good representation. And frankly, a lot of folks just don't have access to that, which is problematic in a lot of ways. So, you know, for those reasons, I don't see any reason not to support this initiative as long as we can have, I think we should have the same kind of report back mechanisms that we always ask for to see evidence that this is, you know, again, meeting the but-for standard and moving people into some of these areas that they wouldn't have otherwise done it if it weren't for this. I don't know, maybe it will or maybe it won't, but we can only know if we try.
Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that in general, it seems like a logical thing to do. I also, I kind of hear what Mr. Allen said. It seems like maybe are we doing it the most efficient and logical way to execute this if we pass this? And then kind of to what Senator Pouliot said is that I'm not sure exactly. I guess we'll have, if this happens, we'll have to get data to see if it works. But I'm almost wondering for some areas, very rural areas that are really struggling to find attorneys. And I've heard of this issue, you know, since a few sessions ago when I first came in the legislature as well, specifically from some counties like Aroostook County. I'm wondering if this is even enough. Like, should we be doing more? So I would like to. Hopefully this is just the beginning of a conversation. I think we need to do more. And I agree with Senator Pouliot. I think we need to look holistically at, you know, we're struggling to get teachers and support staff in school. So I think this is something that we shouldn't just vote on and then kind of see what happens. I think this is something the legislature should discuss more fully. Thank you.
Additional committee discussion on LD 978. See the sponsors with us. I don't know if she wants to provide any additional information or ideas or suggestions to the committee. Welcome, Representative Hepler.
Thank you, Senator Chipman. I actually was just at another committee, so I missed the last 2 minutes of this conversation. I was withdrawing a bill in another committee, so I missed the last couple of minutes. I heard, and I apologize. I heard Dr. Allen talk about providing a stipend, and that's when I had to leave. So,
yep.
So,
yeah, there seems to be general support for the bill among committee members, but just in terms of how it's implemented, I guess is what we're talking about. Representative Terry.
So, Dr. Allen suggested that that this become essentially an incentive program from the judicial branch rather than a tax credit because it's not as efficient. My feeling is, however, that we've already got the rural doctors and nurses and dentists tax benefits. So it would make sense to sort of go in line with that rather than start something new. That's where I am at the moment. However, the salaries of rural attorneys are very different of that of doctors and dentists. You know, there's no big hospital that's, you know, paying attorneys. They're paying the doctors and dentists, but they're not paying the attorneys. So they don't have as big of a salary. And with the $6,000 as sort of the liability that they would have to have in order to use this program, very long way of asking if you would be willing to do some work as to lowering that threshold, I guess, for the $6,000 liability and make it something that's considerably smaller for them. But it would take doing some work and finding out what actual attorneys are making in those areas, and you know what they're sort of maybe, I don't know, first say 10 years or 12 years or whatever while they're paying their student loans off, because that's, you know, what this is hopefully going to do is help these folks do that. You know, what makes the most sense for them.
Was that a question for me?
Yeah, if you have it in you to work on that. I mean, I think, again, there's broad support for this, I think, in the committee, but it seems like it would be a useless thing to have if no one's going to be able to participate in it.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And actually, Dr. Allen also mentioned at the public hearing that especially if these folks are taking advantage of the educational opportunity tax credit, that also feeds into. I'd be happy to do that. I was actually going to do that if I had, and until I got the notice of the work session being 2 days after after the public hearing. But I think there are. I can reach out. I didn't get a chance to reach out to the Maine Bar Association, University of Maine Law School. I'm sure we can provide some. They can provide some guidance for me and for the committee.
Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we're missing a little bit of the point here. $6,000 is the maximum. We're hung up on the $6,000. What would the stipend be? If the stipend is $6,000, that would create a much larger fiscal note than if it was a tax credit up to $6,000 non-refundable, which is what this bill provides. So being hung up on the $6,000, I think is disingenuous to this bill. But I do want to say a stipend would be different than what we're doing on the other bills. And with a tax credit, if I got a tax credit, for example, and I did my W-4 at the beginning of the year, and I said I'm going to make $60,000 or whatever. This is what my taxes are going to be. Then every week I'm going to see an increase in my paycheck because I'm not going to be having state taxes withheld because of the tax credit. So I just want to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bickford. Additional discussion from members of the committee. Representative Perry.
Well, no one was saying anything, so I tried to avoid weighing in, but part of the problem is no lawyer can make a living in a town by himself. You need a second lawyer to move in, then they get someone to argue with and they can start making some money. But I mean, listening to this, the educational tax credit, isn't that only for people in the STEM profession? Does that extend to people who might be practicing law? Firstly, secondly, I know in criminal justice, or I think judiciary, they have a lot going on with the indigent legal program, which is apparently a mess. And I'm just wondering if they're considering anything over there that might help guide us if we're kind of in a stuck spot. And I do kind of agree, I think, with Rep. Bickford, if 6,000 is the maximum, and they're not making money, it doesn't make a difference if it's not refundable to what the fiscal note is. So I don't know. I haven't got an answer, but those are my 2 cents.
Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maine Revenue Service, in their summary, they had issues with the definition of unserved areas and how late the credit could be claimed, and they had 4 different issues, and just the tax credit that we're discussing now is addressing one of them issues, but I'd really like to see the other issues that, like an eligible attorney. I think we need to have that well defined. The underserved areas, I think that's really important to be defined because, that's wide open. And I think there is areas that need it. There's areas that's underserved, and if there's something that we can do to help these areas, I think we definitely should do it. But I just see what I think this particular piece of legislation right now needs some work, and I'd like to see us, help them do whatever we can to get that work done to it. Thank you.
Representative Terry.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if Ms. Papadoc could answer 2 questions for me. There, Heather. Thank you. 2 questions for you. Again, going back to the doctors and dentists, do you know how many eligible people there are that take the advantage of those 2 programs?
Okay, for a while we were certifying up to 5 dentists per year from 2009, 2011. Then it went up to 6 dentists per year. As far as whether that is capped out, I can definitely find that out for you. I think it is a fairly popular program. The primary care access credit, that is 5 primary care professionals per year prior to 2018, and up to 10 professionals per year beginning in 2018. And that's a much more generous credit, of course. But I can get you the actual numbers. I think most of those are, if not maxed out, nearly maxed out, because the primary care, you don't need to be a doctor. You can be, say, a nurse practitioner. You can be some of these other fields.
Yeah. And you were saying a much more generous credit. Can you explain that?
Right. So the primary care access credit is graduated. Eventually, you'll get $60,000 over the course of 5 years. So in the first year, you get up to $6,000 in the first year of eligibility. Second year, that goes to $9,000. Third year is $12,000. Fourth year is $15,000, and the 5th year is $18,000.
Okay. And it's maxed out, you said?
Yeah, and this is non-refundable.
Non-refundable and maxed out. Okay.
And so it's maxed out. I'm not sure if I believe it, if it's not maxed out, it's nearly maxed out. I can get you the actual numbers. I can get you those pretty quickly.
Okay. Okay.
On both credits.
Right. But both you're, anecdotally anyway, very popular.
Yes, it is popular.
And competitive?
I don't know, because DHHS determines, and we get the names, we get them the forms. But yeah, somebody else makes that judgment call for us, thankfully.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like
Julie, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I'm looking at the Red Book, which actually lists, provides an estimate of participants. And for the primary care access credit, the most recent Red Book says the number of taxpayers who were receiving the credit was 22. And for dentists, it says fewer than 10 in 2019.
And the max for the dentists is 10 at the moment. Do you know what the max for the primary care people are?
The
If they're
tax or
there's
the credit or the?
No, on the participants.
The number of participants for the
Caregivers or primary care.
Primary care is, lost my page. Primary care 22.
Gotcha.
They don't specify a year on this, but I assume it's the most recent year they had available when they were doing this report.
Additional committee discussion. So are we feeling like that might make sense to give the sponsor some more time to work on the bill, or are we wanting to make a motion to do something with the bill today? Representative Matlack.
I'm happy to give Representative Hepler a bit more time.
to polish up this bill. So if I would propose we table this bill for now.
Second it.
The motion by Representative Matlack to table the bill, seconded by Representative Gramlich. That's non-debatable, so I guess we will vote on the motion. All those in favor of tabling the bill to give the sponsor some additional time to work on the bill, please raise your hand.
I think I have a unanimous. Rep Carmichael, did you vote on this one? Yes, okay.
Great, so that is unanimous, so that bill is now tabled. Thank you for being with us, Representative Hepler, and look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for your time, and I will get right on it.
All right. So we'll close the work session on LD 978, and we will now move into work session on LD 1046. This is sponsored by Representative Terry, an act to create an income tax return checkoff for hunger prevention.
It's currently, I'm sure you've noticed when you fill out your tax returns that there are a number of what are called checkoffs at the end of the return, where if you're entitled to a refund or you want to make a contribution, there are a variety of entities that you can donate to through that process. This bill would add onto the list of income tax checkoff provisions a contribution to support emergency food assistance program administered by Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, shortened to ACF for soon future purposes. It also establishes something called the Emergency Food Assistance Program Fund under ACF, to which the revenue collected from the checkoff would be credited. And it would be it would need to be for the purpose of providing a food assistance, an emergency food assistance program administered by ACF. There's a sort of web of other things going on with regard to this issue. There is a bill, LD 691, currently in the ACF committee, which also establishes a fund to address food insecurity, it's called. And its purpose would be to support individuals in need and main food producers who are providing assistance to individuals in need. It appropriates $50,000 to get that fund started. Under the Taxation Committee Bill 1046, it provides that it has to be used, it says to support the Emergency Food Assistance Program administered by the department. There is no statutory creation of an emergency food assistance program. They have generic statutory authority to establish programs. There is currently something that they administer called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, abbreviated TFAP. I think we heard references to that during the public hearing, and I had no idea what they were talking about, but I have since discovered. I do have a page which I could share with you, which is on the ACF website, which describes the Emergency Food Assistance Program. It appears to be a program that's available on the federal level that states can join to participate in. And it looks like our Department of ACF has decided to do that. The current law for checkoffs provides that a checkoff may not be listed on the form, even if you put it into statute, unless it raises at least $25,000 in the previous calendar year. That requirement doesn't apply to the first year. So the first year it can build up support, but after that first year, it has to be raising at least $25,000 or it won't be included on the checkoff portion of the income tax form. Maine Revenue Services has technical concerns. The only thing I know about LD 691 is that it has had a public hearing, I believe, but has not had a work session yet, I think. That's it. Oh, administrative costs. Main revenue says in the first year, 14,855, and in the second year, 3,855.
So Julie, that administrative cost, just to be clear, would be covered by the money that comes in from the checkoff, right?
Yes, you're right. It would. The main revenue services is allowed to subtract its administrative costs before it sends its money to the secondary fund that is responsible for providing the assistance.
Right. So it would only cost the state money if it brought in less than around 18,500 or something. Then it would cost the state money, I guess. But other than that, it would pay for itself. And okay, great. Thank you for that. Committee discussion on LD 1046. Representative Terry.
Sorry, I won't speak too much to this, but I do just want to, I'm just looking at the ACF, the bill, let's see, it's 691. Yeah. It looks like that fund is a matching fund that they're trying to put together essentially to, maybe I'm not doing this right here, Julie, I'm reading fast, but it looks like it's to pay local food producers for hunger programs, that kind of thing, which is great. I fully support that as well. I may actually, yeah. So it's a little bit different than what this particular fund starts. This is essentially a fund that will go into that emergency food program, and that program, the function of that program is to make sure that if, say, a food bank in your local area that doesn't necessarily get great funding, they can go to that program and apply for grant money to put into their own food program. I'm thinking, specifically, there's a food program in Wyndham that is small, not particularly greatly funded. If they find that they're looking for extra grant money, they can go to this program to get that money from ag. And this tax checkoff box essentially fills that pot of money on a yearly basis with buy-in from the whole tax-paying state. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for that, Representative Terry. Discussion from the committee. You can take the chart down, Julie said. Thank you. Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there an idea how much, because I'm not very experienced with this part of it, is there an idea how much funds something like a check off on the taxes normally generates, or is there any idea of what that might generate? Probably any way to even tell, I don't know.
Main revenue services would have that information. They would know how many checkoffs or how much money was raised through that process on the income tax return. I don't know whether they have it available with them today, but I would imagine they would be able to gather for the existing ones. Of course, it's going to vary depending upon the popularity of different checkoffs. Some are more popular than others and raise more, but they might be able to give you a general idea. There have also been a few over the years that have not met that $25,000 amount threshold that they have to raise and have been dropped. They would also be able to give you that information, but I do not have it on me.
Would it be possible to ask that, to bring them in? Ask
Main
them?
revenue services that could come on and maybe give us some idea of how much this would bring in? Dr. Allen with us or someone else from Main Revenue?
hopefully Heather has that information with her. If she doesn't, I know we can get our hands on it and get it to Julie to provide to the committee.
Okay. Ms. Heather, Heather, do you have information of how much money this might bring in from the checkoff?
No, unfortunately, I don't. There were a couple other questions. We can get that for you. But there was also a question as to have there been any funds that fell below the 25,000, and there have been a few. And that was initially with the political parties, but then there was the bone marrow screening fund, also the main asthma and lung disease, and the research fund. So we now have 7 on the tax return right now. This would be an 8th. So that initial year of administrative costs, it is a one-time higher cost, and that is again our notorious $11,000 for computer programming to get the line onto the tax return. And the other annual ongoing costs is a little bit lower per fund this past year because of the addition of the children's cancer checkoff that was recently made and it was on the 2020 tax return. So the ongoing costs had been up to almost $4,600, and now it's down to a little over $3,800 because it's spread out over 7 funds instead of 6.
Okay, Representative Terry, keep your hand up.
Yeah, actually, Heather, if you could stay, that'd be great. Just have a quick question. I know that there are some programs, some checkoff programs that have withstood the test of time. Can you tell us a little bit about those, perhaps? Maybe not necessarily how much they bring in, but their effectiveness.
I probably cannot speak to any of that. I do know that the chickadee checkoff was I think the premier. That's where it all started. That one is still going strong. And then through the years, the other ones that are on the tax return right now, and I can't speak to effectiveness, but the Maine Children's Trust Fund, the Maine Military Family Relief Fund, the Companion Animal Sterilization Fund, the Maine Veterans Memorial Cemetery Fund, the Public Library Fund, and the new kid on the street is the Maine Children's Cancer Research Fund.
All right, additional committee discussion on this bill. Someone like to make a motion? Representative Gramlich.
I would like to make a motion ought to pass.
Second.
We have a motion of ought to pass by Representative Gramlich and seconded by Senator Pouliot. Go ahead, Julie.
Just to clarify for Avery, it would be ought to pass as amended, at least for the fiscal note.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Yep, so the ought to pass is amended with the fiscal note. Committee discussion on the motion.
I think Heather actually has one more thing to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, sorry. Yes, we do have a clarification. So for the other funds, there is an option as to $5, $10, these $5 increments. And we were just hoping that we were going to go in the same style if this is going on the return. As currently submitted, the bill has only the $5 amount. We would just like to stay in the same form and style as the other funds.
Absolutely. I'm 100% fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll see no further committee discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify. That appears to be unanimous.
Avery just sat back down. You got it. Okay.
I had Judith in here. Yeah, I got it.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. So that concludes the work session on LD 1046. which is our last bill on the schedule for today. We have a couple hand up. Represent Senator Pouliot.
That was left over from before, sorry.
Okay. Julie, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, I know we've sort of talked without much detail previously about the tax expenditure review process. At your work session on Thursday, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to sort of start at the beginning and give you an introduction again, but hopefully from a little bit different angle than in the past with regard to how that process works. There are beginning to be some discussions from a number of different areas, both from Maine Revenue Services, from various staffs who are involved in this process on the departments or legislative level, and also at the Government Oversight Committee. Senator Libby is a member of the Government Oversight Committee, so he's a good liaison and link between those two. The Government Oversight Committee is meeting this Friday morning, and one of the items on their agenda is a discussion of OPEGA's tax expenditure reviews. For those of you who are interested in this area, you might want to listen to their meeting. It starts at 9 this Friday, and I listed it on the monthly calendar too, more as a sort of point of information than anything else. You've also received some of the reports, well, all of the reports that are under the Taxation Committee jurisdiction right now that need to be reviewed at some point. Your focus right now is pretty much on getting bills heard and worked, so it's hard to fit those in. But I just want to let you know that the discussion of the process itself, which has been in existence for, well, it's in its 6th year now. So the entities, various entities who are participants in that process, of which the Taxation Committee is one, have had some experience with going through that process. And it seems to me that there's an effort right now that's just getting started to maybe look at that process in a process way to see if it's meeting the legislature's needs and the purposes that the legislature had for it back when it was first set up, or whether there need to be maybe some tweaks or other things that might make it more useful. One of which might be the timing. If reports are, the full reports can be finished at a variety of different times throughout the year. Some might be better for the Taxation Committee to be working on them at this point, because you have so many bills you need to hear and work, is probably not the best idea to be trying to schedule a review of an OPEGA report, which will be quite in depth and possibly involve a number of issues. So it's something to think about if you want to sort of go back and look at the reports. If you need them online, they are available on the Taxation Committee materials webpage under Tax Expenditure Review. I just wanted to mention that that sort of process is starting to rumble around out there. That's really all I have to say about it. It's probably more than I should have said in the first place, but that's it.
Okay. No, thanks for that, Julie. Appreciate that.
Sorry. Amendment review. I almost forgot. We have
Yeah,
an
no, I was
amendment.
just going to ask you if you had amendment review, because I know you sent
Thank
something
you.
out in email. So yeah, if you want to do that now, that'd be great for us to do that.
Yes. Let me bring it up here because I can do it on screen if I can get the right one. Wow. Oh, there it is. Are you seeing it?
We don't see anything on our screen right now.
There it is. Okay.
Looks like it's come. Yeah, there we can see it now. It's kind of cut off on the left side. I don't know if you can make it. Yeah, we can see the top part of it now.
How's that? Ah,
Yeah, we're just seeing like to the top half of the page. Is there a way to shrink it down a little bit maybe, or?
I can't,
Oh,
but
there we go. Okay, yeah, right
this
about
is,
there.
this
That's
is the
good.
total, this is the total length of the page right here. So
No, that's good. We can see the whole, all the language right now. So that's fine right there.
yes.
Yep.
This is an act to permit municipalities to provide assistance to veterans in paying property taxes. It only has one amendment to it, and that's to change the cross-reference to the definition of homestead. The original bill had reference to a definition of homestead in the old circuit breaker program, and this changes it to the definition of homestead under the homestead exemption law now. And the only other thing is to scroll way down here to the next page, which is to indicate that a fiscal note is not required on this bill. It's providing a municipal auction. The legislature is not requiring the municipality to do anything, so there is not a mandate requirement to reimburse the municipality, and it is not property. It's not a property tax exemption. It's a benefit to veterans by volunteering, similar to the current volunteer program for senior citizens.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns about this? Are we okay? Can't see everybody on the screen, but just I guess speak up if there's any concerns, but looks like everybody's okay with this one. All right, so is there anything else, or is that the only one, Julie?
That's the only one I have today.
All right.
And I just have one thing to throw out there.
Go ahead, Terry.
Julie sent us, and maybe you mentioned this, I did just have to step out for a second, but let's see, on the 4th, so when was that, Sunday night, Julie sent us a annual reports from 3 different credits that we have: the shipbuilders credit, the main headquarters credit, and the food processing facilities credit. Those are reports that have to come to us every year. If you're old to the committee, it's something that you've already seen and can pretty much easily assess if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. For any new members, though, if you have any questions about them, just let us know. It's really just a report back to us, but if there's something that you want to see, we can make sure that happens.
Senator Pouliot.
Yep, I just wanted to talk about scheduling for committee meetings. Well, on Wednesdays, I have a standing commitment from 10 to the ability to start the committee meeting if we could start at 9, but I understand there's also some issues with the House Democrat caucus. I'm just wondering if we could at least get the meetings, started at that time. Then at 10, just a heads up to the group, if we do that, I'm gonna have to hop off, for about a half an hour to 45 minutes, but then can come back.
Yeah, just so we were planning to have a conversation around scheduling, but I guess there's some other conversations going on around the House Democratic caucus time, so that may be something we want to wait on for now and see if they change the time of that or something. But if it stays at 9 and is, we may want to have a conversation at a future meeting to see what people think about timing, but it may not be an issue at this point. So yeah. I guess we'll maybe wait on that. I just got word from Representative Terry that there's some conversations going on. There's some other committees that have conflicts with the timing of the caucus. So we'll just maybe hold off for now on that. But
sounds good. Just want folks to know where I was at, since I'm the only one representing my caucus in this committee.
Yeah, I mean, no matter when we have committee meetings, there's going to be conflicts here and there with members, but we'll see if we can keep them at 9. If that doesn't, continue to be a conflict with the House caucus, 9. But we'll keep everybody posted on that. Any further committee comments or discussion before we sign off? Go ahead, Representative Hanley.
Yes, okay, thank you. It appears that we're not changing anything. Everything that is in place now is we're going to keep the same times and schedule.
Yeah, for now. I mean, we're already advertised and scheduled out for the next, I believe, week or two, but So for now, we're going to keep everything the way it is and see what happens if the House Democratic Caucus continues to be at 9 and that's a conflict for the House Democrats on the committee, then, you know, we'll have maybe a conversation with the committee as a whole and see what people think about changing it. But I guess for now, we'll just keep it at 9 o'clock. Does that seem all right, Representative Terry?
Okay, good. Thanks.
I mean, that seems okay. You're okay with that, Representative Terry?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Go ahead, Representative Kreiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if we made any headway on getting OPEGA to come in and discuss the research investment bill that we had last week.
Yeah, so we did, maybe Julie can tell us the date. We did invite Lucia Nixon to come, and she's going to be coming to see us either next week or the following week. You know the date on that, Julie? I think it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's on the 20th.
Yes.
On the
We
20th.
added it to the calendar for a work session on April 20th.
Okay,
Tuesday,
great. Thank
Tuesday.
you. Thank you, Julie.
It's LD 308 is the number. It's on the list now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we maybe have her come at the beginning of the meeting and do that first before we start our work sessions that day. And it might be a good opportunity to ask about the bill we took up today as well, the main seed capital tax credit issue as well. Okay, any further committee discussion? Seeing none, I guess we'll conclude this meeting of the tax